Friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel. Huck is going to sit this one out because it's a monster show. Put this on hold, pause it, go get a big cup of coffee. I'd say this is a 2 croissant episode, probably one of the longest episodes you're ever going to see out of me. But this story is a mind-boggler. And one of the most interesting stories I've ever told, but also one of the saddest. But before I get into that story, got a letter. Hey Dave, thank you for your outstanding program. Enclosed are some coffee I picked up for you while in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, the weekend before the election, and some treats for the polar bear Huck dog. Huck reminds me of a Great Pyrenees named Dinky that I knew when I was a teenager. I hope Huck enjoys the treats and you enjoy the coffee with your wife and maybe some friends. I drank 4 cups of coffee while watching the election night coverage up until 3:30, far short of the 26 cups Ike was said to have drank before D-Day. Well, Ike must have been unreal. Anyhow, thank you very much for the coffee and the Huck treats. It was very kind of you, and I appreciate it. I get a lot of letters, folks. I get a lot of letters. Every once in a while, it makes it all worthwhile. Everything. I got this note on one of my video posts. Dave, I apologize in advance for the length of this. I cannot tell you just how much your shares about Ben and how important mental health is has impacted me. I've cried along with you in multiple videos. As a young adult who's very close to her mom, who spent probably more years of her life depressed and wanting to check out than not, you've really helped me, truly open my freaking eyes and to see just how much I've been hurting my mom, my best friend, my everything, for so many years. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your hurt, for reminding any of us who might be willing that way or considering doing something like that, just how much our parents would break. Seeing what you've shared with us villagers. I don't want to hurt my mama like that. I may still struggle with my own mental health, but I can't bear to hurt my mom like that. I may not understand why I matter so much to her. I just need to remember that I do so much. Whether I believe I'm worth it or not, moot point. I see you, what pain I've seen from you, and what took your baby from you. I am crying writing this. I always knew my mom loved me. She does. Even when I was ever at my worst, of the worst moments over the years where I acted insane and hysterically and impulsively and recklessly, I knew she loved me. But I always justified it to myself and my mind that she'd be okay. She'd been through worse, etc. But actually being present and seeing a parent who's lost their kid, their best friend, their baby, in such a way that's truthfully clicked something more in my mindset than anything before. And I'm so angry for your loss. I think of you and Ben often. But I wanted you to know you really are making a huge difference for so many of us and in so many ways. God bless you. For all I know, you've helped save my life and save my mom from a horrific broken heart. Thank you. Thank you figuratively, shaking me awake and forcing me to realize beyond my own hurt what I could do to the one person in my life that I don't know what I'm going to do without. The most important person in my life. And I don't want to be that reason that her heart breaks. Like the break in your heart I've seen. I'm so sorry. I hope someday to meet Ben. I think we'll all meet someday together, folks. whatever plane of existence we're all in someday. He fought very hard. He was braver than he probably thought he was. I appreciate you and everything you did and do for us, for the missing, for their loved ones, and for the ones searching for answers we still can't fully comprehend, for truth seekers, and also for mental health and how important it is, and for reminding some of us that we really are more important to our loved ones, even when we aren't feeling like it at times. You're a special man. Give Huck and Angie my love. See, let me say something. I may seem like I'm upset right now. I'm really not. I'm not. What I am is I'm blessed. I'm blessed by you. You know, I sit here at times and I complain about YouTube cuts me off from people, doesn't give them notifications, takes them off subscriber lists. But to hear something like that, it feeds my soul. It makes me think that this is all worth it. That even if I could just save one life, how important is that? It makes everything important. It makes everything seem minuscule. We've all had rough times in life, every one of us. And if you could find the salvation somewhere to help you get through those times, go find it. Stick with it. Like many parents that lose a child, I looked for meaning. Being stupid, thinking, oh, well, there's got to be some redeeming quality out of losing your son. There's got to be some method to the madness. Some role for me to help somebody. Helping that person. Wow. Thank you very much for the letter. I may never meet you. But you just helped me. So thank you. Now, I told you that this next case is just mind-boggling and sad. But you've never heard a case like this before. I never have, in the thousands I've read. This is very unusual. And you talk about a parent that went through pain. I'm going to tell you about one. This involves a lady named Hanah Upp, 32 years old. Went missing September 14th, 2017 in St. Thomas, the Virgin Islands. She was a school teacher at the time. Now, she was raised in a Japanese American churches in Oregon. Her mother, Barbara, was a United Methodist pastor. And her parents divorced when Hanah was about 15 and she went to live with her mom. She traveled to over 25 countries. And she had a brother named Dan. Hanah was a special person. Hanah had a worldview. And her friends all said that Hanah would light up a room when she walked into it. And she made everybody believe that you were her best friend. That is a gift. And I can't tell you how many people I have told you about over the years that were like Hanah, that disappeared. It's almost as though these people are picked out because of their personality traits and behavior. So let's go back to August 2008, and I'll walk you through this. Hanah got a job as a middle school teacher at Thurgood Marshall Academy in Harlem, New York City. She was extremely excited about the opportunity. She moved to New York, got a roommate, everything was good. And a day before school was to start, she told her roommate that she was going to go for a run at the local park. And she took off, didn't come back. And she didn't arrive for her first day at school. Her roommate went out that night, didn't even check on the room. The room door was closed, just thought Hanah was there. When she didn't arrive for her first day of school, the principal called her home. And her roommate said, well, I'll go look in her room. And what he'd found was her wallet, passport, Metro card, and cell phone was in her purse on the floor in the bedroom. She wasn't there. Hanah was reported as a missing person, and her mom was called. Her mom, Barbara, who's a retired pastor, came to New York City to help try to find her daughter. Barbara had also spoke with New York City detectives, explained nothing like this had ever happened before, and they were handling it, the police were, appropriately, as a possible crime. Well, a couple days into it, the police get a call from someone who saw all the flyers all around town about Hanah and said, hey, I think I saw this woman at an Apple store. Well, the police went out and they found footage, closed-circuit footage, of this man walking up to this other woman and confronting her, and her just kind of sloughing it off and walking away. And the detectives called Barbara and said, hey, could you come down to the 13th precinct and look at a video and see if this is your daughter? Well, Barbara went down there. She goes, that was Hanah. But no one had seen her for days. And she hadn't been home. 2 days after being seen on the footage, Hanah's seen at a Starbucks store in Soho. And then the police started to check the establishments in the area and found that she had visited 5 different sports clubs in the previous 2 weeks. They didn't know what to make of it. It was all very odd. They hadn't seen something like this before. Now, September 16th, Hanah had been missing for 20 days. That's a long time. Now, near Robbins Reef, a Staten Island ferry boat had 2 deckhands on the boat. And as they're passing the reef, they see something in the water, face down and motionless. They tell the captain to swing the boat around and it kind of look like a body. They pulled up alongside and the deckhands pulled a woman motionless, face down in the river, out of the water. They said that the body seemed to be alive. The person took 1 breath, was fairly comatose. They took her to the port and they had an ambulance transport her to the Richmond University Medical Center, where she was diagnosed with hypothermia and dehydration. And she had a severe sunburn on the left side of the body. It was Hanah. Missing 20 days, found in the Hudson River. Now, let's stop there for a second. If you've read Missing 411: A Sobering Coincidence, you know that there's a detective named Gannon who worked missing persons in New York, who investigated these type of cases where, say, a person fell off a dock or was seen going in a river at one point, but the woman was found days later upstream in an impossible position to get to days later. Yeah. Nobody can breathe underwater, I don't think, without a scuba tank. So how long was Hanah face down? Had to be minutes while these guys watched her. So she gets to the medical center. Severe sunburn on the left side of her body. That's odd. And the medical staff interviews her, and she immediately gives up her mom's name and phone number. Her mom gets there within an hour. And Hanah asks her mom, "Why was I all wet?" But once she was out of the water, she started to remember things. She said that her last memory was going out of her apartment for a run, and then it all kind of goes blank. Well, the doctors realized something highly unusual was going on. And so Hanah was transferred to Columbia Medical Center psych unit. Appropriately so, I would say. If I was the doctors, I'd want to go too. I'd want her to go there. And she went through a series of brain scans. And the neurologist said that there was no neurological issue for her memory loss. They believed that the issue was psychological, and she was diagnosed with dissociated funk, very rare disease that causes people to lose access to their identity. The doctor said it's triggered by sexual or physical abuse. Now, Hanah, after this, went through hypnosis, and they couldn't find a cause or a trigger, no sexual or physical abuse to her. Remember that. So it doesn't fit with what they say is causing this. And medical personnel believe that Hanah spent the night in the river or on the reef and then got back in the water for some reason. That's what they said, because she had a scratch on her knee and they thought maybe it was from the reef. Again, the important point here, folks. She's found face down in a river. That means you're dead. That means you're not breathing. How did she survive? And then they want to make this a dissociated funk, but there's no trigger that they could find to cause it. Now, a year went by, and Hanah decided to join her mom, where her mom lived in Pendle Hill, a Quaker community. Talk about a safe environment around your mom, most loved possession in your life. And Hanah got work doing odd jobs in the community, organizing meetings. People in the community said Hanah was somebody who gave a lot to them. Love, care, guidance. And she stayed there for 3 years in this Quaker community. Then she got a new job as a teaching assistant in Kensington, Maryland. Yeah, that's on the verge of the government center in DC, and Maryland has water all the way around it. Well, she was working for a Montessori school in Kensington. And people said that she tried to learn everything she could about it before school started. And on Hanah's first day in class, Barbara got a call from the police saying that they found Hanah's purse, wallet, and cell phone on a path in the woods in Kensington. Now, she had roommates that were teachers at the Montessori school as well, and they said that morning they saw her leave, but she was going the wrong way to school. Well, Barbara again drove down to Maryland to help in the search. Nobody had seen Hanah in 24 hours, and she hadn't slept in her room. The very next day, Barbara's in town, and she gets a call from an unknown phone number. And it just says, "Mom." And she can tell it's Hanah. Hanah had borrowed someone's phone. Barbara realizes where she's at. She tells her, and Barbara comes out and picks her up. Hanah's filthy dirty. She kind of regained her memory while she was in a creek 1.5 miles from school. She got herself out of the creek, found a small shopping center, and borrowed a phone. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Now, both disappearances, follow me on this. She disappeared the day before school. Now, some people may say, well, maybe school's a triggering device. Maybe something in her life happened at school. Maybe it was the stress of knowing she was going to have to start her job by going to school. Both missing person cases happened in August, September. Both times she's found in water. She lost her memory. The only thing and the first thing she remembers is her mother's phone number. 2 days after her mom finds her, gets her cleaned up, Hanah returned to school. The following year, Hanah got a job as a preschool teacher at a Montessori school in St. Thomas, the Virgin Islands. She told friends that she's moving to paradise. Another picture of Hanah. She was super excited to go to St. Thomas. It was going to be another Montessori school she knew a lot about. Within the first days of being at the school, parents all loved her. They called her the modern day Mary Poppins. Imagine that. She saved her money, finished the school year no problems, got through that first day of school, and saved her money to enough to purchase a trip to Oregon, where she was going to learn advanced Montessori methods at their center there. She was committed. She wanted to learn, and she wanted to be an integral part in Montessori. When she was in St. Thomas, Hanah swam in the ocean daily. When she was in New York, she ran every day. She was an athlete. Well, she swam in the ocean every day. She became super fit and could swim 2 miles. There aren't many people that can do that. But when you are around how beautiful that ocean is in St. Thomas and St. John, I can tell you, I can understand why you want to be in it. Plus, the water is really warm and clean, and I get it. Well, September 6th, 2017, Hurricane Irma had its eyes on St. Thomas. And the residents got an early warning, you better get out of there. And the majority of everyone on the island caught a boat or a plane out because it was going to hit it dead on. Well, Hanah and a group of other teachers decided that they were going to stick out the storm. Now let me stop you here. I don't care if somebody survives this. That's a stupid idea. Here's why. The winds in Irma were over 170 miles an hour. And there are few buildings that can withstand that. And after a storm of that magnitude hits anything, it's going to destroy everything on that island. There's not going to be an infrastructure. There's no restaurants that are going to be open. There's no electricity. There's nothing. You might as well pack up and get out. And if you're in Florida, Hawaii, any place that gets a hurricane, typhoon, pay it close attention. Law enforcement does not want you staying because that's just somebody else that they have to search for later on. Well, when this hurricane hit, Hanah was starting her 4th year at this Montessori school and weathered the storm with her friends. The next day after the storm hit, there were a few cell towers that were still standing. And Hanah texted her friends on the mainland and her mom saying she was okay, but the island was destroyed. In fact, she could hardly recognize it. Wow. Six days later, after the storm, Hanah realized that a lot of people were leaving the island. And she went to go see an old friend, an old boyfriend, and found out that he was evacuating as well. And they talked. He was leaving that day. He told her, just come with me. Make a new life wherever we're going. We can go. She didn't want to leave. Well, that night, she went home, and her and her roommates talked, and the roommates decided that the devastation was just too much. And some of the roommates decided they were going to evacuate. Some were going to stay. The next morning, September 14th, Hanah told friends, another picture of Hanah. Hanah told friends that she was going to go to the Montessori school to help them clean it up. And she left a note for others saying that she was going to go for a swim and then go to school and help them clean up. And people saw her drive away. Well, Hanah never made it to Montessori school that day. And her friends started to call the States trying to figure out what happened. Where is she? Well, many of her friends knew that she would go to a place called Sapphire Beach. That was her go-to place to swim. I know a little bit about St. Thomas because I've been there several times, and St. John. And I'm going to give you the overview. Here's where Hanah went, Sapphire Beach. Now, this is St. John. Now, this is open ocean through here. This isn't any real protected water. It gets real rough, and it gets a real strong current. This is where all the cruise ships come in and park for St. Thomas. This, in my humble opinion, is the most beautiful, idyllic bay, one of the top 3 I've ever been in the world, Cruise Bay. You can watch planes go in and out, amphibious planes, yachts go in and out. There used to be a couple of bars right on the bay where you could sit there and just watch and be mesmerized. This beach would not be a beach I would swim at just because the open water's right here. There's so many other protected beaches in here and around here. Sapphire is an interesting choice for her, but she had swam it for the years she had been there, and it was her favorite place to go. So who am I to question? She wanted to go there, she went there. Well, a couple of friends went to Sapphire to check. And at Sapphire Beach, there's a couple of small beach bars. Not much to them, 3 or 4 benches, some bar stools, small bar. Well, on one of the bar stools was Hanah's sundress. And then scattered in the sand were her sandals and her car keys. She's nowhere to be found. So they grab the car keys and they go and they find it in the parking lot right next to the beach. And inside is her purse, her wallet, passport, and cell phone. Exactly what was left behind on the other disappearances. The friends spent an hour walking the beach, looking, thinking, well, maybe she's way offshore. They wait, nothing. They report her missing to the St. Thomas police. St. Thomas police calls the Coast Guard. Coast Guard sends out 3 helicopters, and they search for 3 days. All of her friends believed Hanah would survive at least 3 days out in the ocean on her own because she was such a strong athlete and a strong swimmer. After 3 days, really there were some question marks whether she could survive any more than that. By the third day of the search, the island was preparing for another hurricane, Hurricane Maria. Police told her friends that if she was dead, her body would surface after 3 days. Well, Barbara's mom came onto the island and spent the next year searching for her daughter, going to Sapphire Beach almost daily, just looking at the beach, wondering where Hanah is. I know exactly what she's thinking. At one point, there was a story going around that the police contacted Barbara and said, there's a rumor that your daughter's at a drug house in town. Do you want to go with me out there and a few other officers and we'll go see? She goes, yeah. So they go out there, and there's a woman who roughly looks like Hanah, but is drugged out, filthy, dirty. It wasn't Hanah. But Barbara made a statement in a couple of articles that it was somebody's daughter. Somebody probably looking for her. She said it was really tough to see. In one sense, it was a relief that it wasn't Hanah. In another sense, she felt horrible for this girl and her parents. After a year, Barbara left. Hanah's never been found. And there were theories about what might have happened. One of the theories is that Hanah went out for a swim and got into one of the stronger currents because Hurricane Maria was coming the next day, and it pulled her out to the ocean. I don't buy that one. I just don't. Somebody who's as strong of a swimmer as she is, especially as warm as the water is, could have just waited it out, swam and gotten on, and would have made it. Not a big deal. Another theory is that it was a planned disappearance. She got on another boat somewhere and went out to some faraway land and is living there now. I don't buy that either. Here's what I do know based on the investigations I've done. And it comes back to New York City and her being face down in that water. First of all, when women die in the water, most of the time they are found face up. Men are found face down. She is found face down in the water. Odd. Because of the investigations Gannon did when he was with NYPD, and all of the very odd circumstances surrounding many of the drowning deaths he investigated, there was always an implication there was something else going on. I believe there is. Let's talk about Kensington. She kind of gets her senses, wakes up, if you want to say that, in the water. 2 times, in the water. This isn't by chance, folks. I mean, I wrote a whole book, Missing 411, A Sobering Coincidence, about people disappearing in the water. Nobody sees them go to the water. Nobody ever saw Hanah go to the water. Remember that. So, September 14th, she went missing in St. Thomas. People at the beach where she last disappeared said that knew Hanah said that she was acting awkwardly. They never clarified what that meant. That could mean a lot of things to a lot of people. I don't know exactly what they meant. Maybe just not herself. I go right back to New York City. How does anybody stay alive with their face down in the water as long as those deckhands saw her? Impossible. Unless something else is happening. In each incident, she had amnesia. In each incident, it was all water related. Always in September, October, these occurred. 3 times. You can't say that that's just happenstance. And there's 4 to 5 years between each incident. And lastly, and I've seen this before, and I know it hurts some people's feelings, that these people that disappear under these circumstances are some of the nicest people you can imagine. I didn't make these things up that they said about Hanah. They stated that she loved people. She made them feel special, really easy to get along with. Kind of like the type of person you want to work around or be around to make you feel good. Not somebody who is aggressive, not somebody who would be a jerk, just the opposite. And the number of times I've written about this in books, very odd. Very odd. Now, I get a lot of comments on videos saying, what is it about water? Water conceals a lot of things, friends. A lot. We don't know what's beneath that water half the time. As Hanah asked her mom in New York, why was I all wet? So the diagnosis is dissociated fung. What a problem. If you're going to lay a theory on something, and it has to have this criteria, and it doesn't, how can it fit that diagnosis? She had no sexual abuse or physical abuse. She went to a hypnotist and tried to go through reverse hypnosis. They didn't find anything. She went through a series of counselors. They couldn't figure it out. And one of the last things was Hanah went through a counselor and said she stopped seeing the counselor because she didn't want this disassociated fung to be the center post in her life. She wanted to move on from it. But if Hanah didn't have any control over this, no control. To me, I keep going back to abductees. So much about this mimics an abductee. So much. I really feel sorry for Barbara. That woman really didn't give up on her daughter, and I admire that so much. She tried to help her so much. And as a parent, you got to give them enough rope to go live life. And when she was living around the Quakers, that was probably the ideal setup because so everybody could keep an eye on her. And I can imagine the pain Barbara felt letting her go. She has to go live her life. I appreciate you being here, folks. I really think this is a cornerstone case. I've never heard of anyone disappearing 3 times. Ever. Thanks for being here. Remember, the kindness revolution doesn't cost you or me anything to be kind. And kindness is contagious. I've been around people who were really kind to one person and the next person behind them is kind as well. Yeah. And remember all the service workers, store clerks, mail clerks, waitresses, waiters, Be nice to them. Truck drivers. In the meantime, if you like this, if you thought it was interesting, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. And we're approaching Christmas. Our inventory is running low. Please check our website and order right now at NA, like North America, nabigfootsearch.com. Go to the online store. You'll find us there. And if you ask, I'll sign your poster to anyone you want. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you being here. And letters like the one I read at the beginning touch my soul. Thank you. Paulides out.